Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Karina and I am coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, the very northwest corner of Washington State, where I live with my partner, our two kitties, and my two horses, Odin and Bragi the Mustangs. I adopted them from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program, and I will have details about that in the show notes. Speaking of show notes, I will strive to have them up as soon as this podcast uploads to YouTube. I don't always get them right away, but I think for the most part it's pretty close. So, what is this podcast about? This podcast is about my knitting projects, about my horsemanship journey, and about gardening and cooking and any, sort of creative outlet that I have. So, sorry I keep swallowing. I am drinking a LaCroix, which is watermelon flavor. It's very tasty, but it is carbonated, so I'm trying not to belch. Okay, so I'm going to start with the knitting, I think. Yes, I'm going to start with the knitting. I have recorded some clips. I did a garden tour earlier this week. I recorded a horse training session with Bragi, my young Mustang, and I recorded some footage from a ride that Odin and I did by ourselves this morning. So I will tack all of those on, hopefully, excuse me, with some explanatory notes. But first and foremost, welcome, because I probably forgot to say that. I hope you have a project to work on and can enjoy this vlog or podcast or whatever you call it. I'm not sure. Mine's not very highly produced. I just sort of tack videos together and add some text and bada bing, there we go. So, finished object. This one is still, I finished it yesterday. I washed it this morning and it is on the drying rack. I have not weaved in the ends yet, so, but it's close. It's super close to being done, and I will probably weave in the ends tonight. This is the Rocket Tee. I will tell you who wrote the pattern here in a minute, because I'll talk about that during works in progress as well. So here it is. This is knit with a Cascade 220 fingering weight yarn that is the kind of neutral color, and then alternating stripes with the it's a Berroco mohair yarn. So this is a fun knit. It took me forever because I kept working on other things. It has an I-cord bind off around the sleeves and the neckline, and then also the hem. So looking forward to wearing that. So I'm going to put that back in its little towel. So and then finish drying it later. So I'm going to toss it in the chair right over here. So just like that. I have another finished object. So I was doing a test knit and I just finished it yesterday also. This is in a bag that my mom made me for my birthday. Thank you, Mom. I love the drawstring. I like the drawstring because sometimes zippers, your yarn gets caught in it. So this test knit is by Seedling Stitch. I recommend that you watch her podcast. She's a relatively new knitter and has, and this is the pattern that I was test knitting. So it's this nice vine tank. I did mine in a gray color. Unfortunately, my gauge swatch did not accurately reflect, so it turned out ginormous. Part of it is, so here is half of it. So here is the vine stitch. So I think it's a fairly complex pattern with 3 different charts, I think, of this neat vine stitch. It's I mean, it's fun to knit, but I had to pay attention, especially when you are joining. You knit each piece together. I mean, separately. So the right front shoulder, right back shoulder, left front shoulder, left back shoulder, and they're very similar. And then there's this vine piece that goes down each side too. So yeah, it was, and all the way down to the ribbing. And there's a split hem option, which I did. So yeah, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with it. It's too big for me to wear. I will say that. So I may frog it and knit a small. I think I knit like the 3rd or 4th size, which is my usual size, but this yarn was probably a heavier weight cotton than what the pattern called for. In fact, I think the pattern called for a linen blend, which has super nice drape. I just happen to have this cotton yarn sitting in my stash, so that is what I opted to use. I find that my gauge swatches don't work out very often, and I couldn't really say why for sure. There's something about, I mean, I think part of it, this one grew because of the weight of the cotton. I think my best strategy is actually to start knitting it and do the gauge, measure the gauge on the actual garment. And then if I need to adjust it, I can just rip it out at the beginning. Sometimes that's hard to do if you're doing like a bottom-up sweater and you already have like 400 stitches on your needles and you don't want to cast on again. But I think if you're at that stage, you could also possibly make some adjustments as well. So that's what I would do. So yeah, two finished objects. I have a half-finished object. So a pair of socks that I've been working on. These socks are the Bakery Bears, K. Jones Fairgrounds socks. This is a paid-for pattern that I think you can buy in her Ravelry store. This works really well with self-striping yarn. And I have a whole bunch of self-striping yarn from Freckled Whimsy. So let me show you the finished sock. Here it is. And it is inside out because I have not done the ends yet. But look how fun this is. Yeah, so super fun. This was a really fun knit. I kind of got distracted with the test knit because there's always a deadline. So I just cast on the second sock recently, the last couple days. So that's top down. Cuffs, heels, and toes are in a contrast color. I use size 0 double pointed needles. Not double pointed needles, that's not what this is. I use magic loop, but these are size 0, which is 2 millimeter. And I cast on the 64 stitch size. Let me tell you about the yarn. So here's the yarn, all wound up. Here's the contrast. Hope I have enough of the contrast yarn. I mean, I followed the directions, so I'm hoping. So this is Sugar Quill, a stripe repeat, June number 9, Spells and Things, is the Harry Potter Year 3 series by Freckled Whimsy. So super fun. This is Serendipity base, 75% superwash merino with nylon, 25% nylon. So yeah, Sugar Quill. I don't remember exactly what that refers to. These are Chaigu bamboo needles, which I really like. I bought Chaigu red lace needles in the same size. I haven't cast on anything with those yet, but I hope to. I always use a bigger needle for the cast on. So this is, I think it's a 2.5 millimeter needle. It just makes it easier. Otherwise, I tend to cast on a little tight, and then it's just really kind of a struggle. So yeah, Fairgrounds socks by Kay Jones. Highly recommend this pattern. It's fun. I am going to knit that more than once. Okay, on with the parade of whips. I'm doing a sock knit along, mystery sock knit along, that with Stephen West. I cast it on, but I think I am going to probably just rip, and this is as far as I got, just rip it, rip it out and use my new Chowgu size 0 needles. So this is contrast color with a main color. So the main color is this Dove Gray by Knit Picks. It's Knit Pick Stroll, fingering weight, superwash merino with 25% nylon, and yeah, this is Dove Heather. And then this is the contrast color. So it is a, I'm not sure if it's self-striping or not. I don't remember. It is by, nope, that's the Stroll label. Oh, here it is. This is Knittivity. Here is the label. You see that. Hand dyer, Fiddlebit sock yarn, 75% superwash Cordale, 25% nylon. This is from the blog reader special, and it's number 66B is the colorway. So this is hand dyed at the Knittivity Studio in Houston, Texas. For more information, you can look at the website www.knittivity.com. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to working on these socks more now that I am done with my test knit. What else do I have going on? Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention. So this bag my mom made for me. I've had this for a while. This is a quilted bag. Has a polka dot liner. It has a zipper. And this bag, my mom also made for me, and this was part of my last birthday present. So this is, has the orange. So I bought my mom like 2 yards of this fabric at a place in Maine, Harmony, Maine, when Randy and I were visiting a couple of years ago. And so apparently I don't sew. I didn't know 2 yards was a lot of fabric. So she has made that one for me, and this larger bag out of the same fabric, which is, and this one's not lined, which is just holding yarn for now. Okay, this bag, Travel Tacoma, this was from a meeting I attended in January. Travel Tacoma, Mount Rainier Tourism and Sports, they were one of the sponsors for this, so yeah, that was handy bag. I got it at the conference and then immediately stuffed yarn in it. So, Rocket Tee. This is by Tanis Fiber Arts. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it's striped. There's a lot of flexibility with this pattern. So a friend of mine had knit it in just a fingering weight, and instead of striping it with mohair to separate, to make it sort of that stripy feel, she did a purl row. So I still have a lot of that same yarn. So I cast on this morning, and I am holding the mohair and the fingering weight double. So this is top down. You do the yoke first, you knit back and forth. You cast on a prescribed number of stitches for whatever size you want. You knit back and forth, and then make the V, and then you start knitting and divide for sleeves and start knitting them around. So this is what the yarn looks like. I was kind of expecting, so here's the fingering. So this is the Superwash Cascade 220 Superwash. This is the Berroco merino mohair. I was kind of expecting that the blue would take over a little bit, and I guess it is. I think, so it's really hard to see because it's so small. You know, I'll show more progress on that when I have more progress. So that is that. I know I got super excited about finishing that test knit, and I just like cast on all the things. Cheers. So what else am I doing? Oh, well, because I love Freckled Whimsy. The Bakery Bears, which is Kay Jones, if you are a Patreon, they offer a magazine, a monthly magazine called, I don't recall now. Let me see. Nope. So, and there is often a pattern in there. So this one is a sock pattern, but it's not the full pattern. It's just the stitch pattern. It doesn't have, oh, you should cast on such and such. You should, you know, knit this many rows or of cuff, and then you know, knit this many for the leg, and here's how to do the heel flap and gusset, or whatever heel you choose. It just has what the pattern is. I've knit enough socks now that I can figure out how many cuff rows I want, how many leg rows I want. I can do heel flap and gusset pretty reliably. It's the heel turn. I have to always go back and look and see how to do that. And then, but picking up the gussets and knitting the foot again. But anyway, the name of the stitch pattern is called Salty Air Socks. So kind of, you know, summery, ocean. So I am using, once again, Freckled Whimsy. So I had this in my stash. This is December 2022. The colorway is Expecto Patronum, spells and things. Yeah, so I am looking forward to starting that, winding that, and starting it. Just as a side note, I don't have a ball winder. I have always just wound my yarn like from around a chair. Recently, I was watching an Arno and Carlos episode where they were just doing one of their sit and knit for a bit, and Arnie started winding yarn. And the way he did it is that he opened the skein so that it was in its loop, and he put his arms through it and then just started winding. And I was like, oh, well, that's super simple, and it keeps things really nice and tidy. I can do that. And I started doing that, and it has worked super well. So thank you, Arnie and Carlos, for that. I don't remember which episode it was, but it was fairly recent. It's hardly fair for me to call this a work in progress because, well, it's not. I haven't even wound the yarn yet. But this is definitely something that I am intending to knit very soon. And finally, this is the future knit that I am I'm going to work on. The bag is from the Mustang Yearling Washington Youth. This is the program that I got Odin the Mustang from. So he had 100 days of training on him. So he was gathered from the wild in 2018. And he was 6 years old at the time, which is kind of old for a Mustang. Although there are definitely older ones. He was gelded. So in other words, he lost his ability to be a stallion and breed mares, and vaccinated, and he was in the corrals in Burns, Oregon for I think just a short time. And then the trainer that I bought him from picked him up for this 100-day Mustang makeover competition. And so yeah, he was gathered, gelded, and domesticated in a very short time. And he is, and you'll see from the video, he's just a really, that I'm going to tack onto this as a trail ride, he's just a super sweet horse. He likes people. He really enjoys this domesticated life. I think he enjoys knowing where the food and the water is all the time. And there are predators here, but you know, we have bears and mountain lions and stuff like that here, but they don't appear to be a threat. So, and he's a stout horse. I mean, he probably weighs 1,250 pounds. Okay, back on task. So this is a Caitlin Hunter pattern, Misurina, a summertime top with the color work yoke, and looks like there's some lace on it as well. This is a paid for pattern. I subscribed to her newsletter, and she has been offering sales. So I am going to knit this pattern. So, well, there is lace on the yoke. So I have some fingering yarn that I got on sale from Brooklyn Tweed. They were offering I think it was for a charity sale. So like a lot of proceeds, or a certain amount of proceeds, were going to a charity. I don't remember the details about it. But this is the yarn that I'm going to knit. This is going to be the main color. This is the contrast color. So this kind of gold color, and then this is like a bright pink. This is called Overtone. No, it's not. It's called Goldfinch. American Columbia wool, sourced, spun, and dyed in the USA. This is Tones Light. So it is fingering weight, 225 yards, woolen spun 2-ply. So Goldfinch, is that what I said? That's what I said. Yes, Goldfinch. And this one is called Hollyhock. So I just bought a whole bunch of yarn out of colors that I like. I mean, I kind of had an intention to knit a sweater out of the 4 different colors, but I don't know, plans evolve. So yeah, that is going to be the sweater. So you need a cable needle, or I think you don't need a cable needle. You need 2 sets of needle, one for the ribbing and one for the main body of the sweater. So one of the reasons why I'm gathering all of this yarn and projects together is because I am going to go visit my mom and sister in Wisconsin next Thursday. So I like to have a lot of yarn for the plane, for waiting around, for, you know, all the things that you need for traveling. So that's why I have all those projects. I'm not going to take, I'll probably take 4 of these at least, probably 3 pairs of socks. Ooh, what am I going to take? 3 pairs of socks, the Rocket Tee, and the Misurina, the Caitlin Hunter sweater. Should I do all of that? Seems like a lot. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I'm almost at 25 minutes, and I know I have several minutes of other videos to tack onto this. So this concludes the knitting portion of it. I will tack on kind of the garden tour and the other horse stuff too. So keep knitting away or working on whatever it is you're working on, and enjoy. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Good morning. We're on a trail ride by ourselves. That's the Puget Sound in front of us. I am letting Odin pick the route. The only criteria is that I get to choose the direction out of the parking lot, which is really only one way that leads into the same way, and then he gets to choose the route that we go. It's been pretty interesting so far what he has chosen. We did a little off trail, not sure why he chose that, just right through the forest. We did a short out and back. He headed up this one route up a hill and then decided he didn't want to go any further. And I suspect the reason for that is because when we arrived in the parking lot, there was a car that had several dogs in it. And he's not particularly fond of dogs, so I suspect that the dogs were up there. And he said, no thanks, there's lots of other places to go. So I've been thinking about I think in an earlier episode, probably sometime in May, I made a statement about wanting to do the 100-mile Tevis Cup by the time, in 3 years, by the time I was 60. Well, I would be 60. And I've started to kind of rethink that goal. I would love to volunteer for helping out on it, be one of the crew people or scribes for one of the veterinarians at the vet check or something like that. But actually training for it is pretty serious business. And let's face it, I work full time and I have another horse that I'm training. I don't think Odin is particularly interested in being an endurance rider. I think he likes this kind of riding, but the kind of, you need to go a certain pace and be here at checkpoints at a certain time. It's not really his game. I read an article quite a while ago written by a woman who loves horses, but at some point she realized she loved the idea of having horses more than she actually loved having them, because frankly it's a lot of work and it's 90 to 90% care, like feeding and picking poop and stuff like that, fixing fence, all that kind of stuff, than it is actually riding. So I kind of appreciated that perspective. And I guess how that's relevant is that it applies in this case. I love the idea of doing the Tevis Cup, but the reality is it's probably not a great goal for me. So I love this kind of exploring. We are by ourselves today. I didn't have a ride partner. I kind of half-heartedly asked one person, but then didn't follow through. Other people just weren't available today. And we have ridden by ourselves before. Odin is a very reliable horse. He's very thoughtful. He does spook at things occasionally, but he'll do a quick sideways jump and then he'll want to think about it. So, I'm not exactly sure where we're headed. This is kind of funny. This is a dead-end road. That is a trail out to another road where there's a residential area that people use it to access the tree farm. So, anyway, I really love this. I think this is the reason why I fell in love with horses in the first place. I was highly influenced by the Billy and Blaze children's books when I was a kid, and in it, Billy and Blaze are somewhere from the East Coast, I think like Vermont-ish or someplace like that. Odin snacking. And Blaze, the pony, was just always such a willing partner, always willing to go where Billy wanted to go and do what he wanted to do. Well, it takes a long time to develop that relationship with a horse, but I feel like Odin and I, for the most part, are here, and we're just out exploring and having a good time. And to me, this is what horseback riding is largely about, although we do have plans to join Pony Club this fall. Pony Club has lifted their age restriction. It used to be you aged out, I don't know, like right after college. But now you can be 100 years old or older if you choose to. So let me give you a shot of the woods right here. I'm feeling Odin's going to want to go off-roading. Oh, there's single track trail there. Not sure where that goes. But I'll see where he wants to go, and if we get to a dead end, we'll turn around and come back and then see where he wants to go next.
Asking for the trot to get faster. And then I was after in the other direction, the offer canter, so I decided to rest after that because I liked the offer.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. It is about 6 o'clock in the morning it's Wednesday, July 12th. I let the horses out, have the pasture all night. Last night, normally they would be in this kind of barnyard area, but they're kind of, let's see if we can get this, behind those two big cedar trees over by the neighbor's fence. So I'm going to go say hello to them and see if they'll come in for breakfast. Well, there they are. That's the neighbor's porch over there. They're on the other side of the fence, possibly not interested in walking all the way around for their breakfast, but I'll put it out for them in their stalls and see if they come in. Thought I'd give a little garden tour while I'm waiting for the water bucket to fill up. I did end up bringing the horses in for breakfast, and Odin had a scratch on his side, so I'm glad I did that so I could put some stuff on it. So what you're looking at here is a 2-year-old manure pile that I had covered for, 2 years, because it's 2 years old. So I just threw some seed out there sort of randomly. I want to say it was April-ish, and then just left it. So the squash is doing really well. I think this is a white scalloped squash. There's a fennel right there. There's kind of some broccoli and kale. It's probably a little early for the melon. Cauliflower. So it's doing okay. I don't know, it was an interesting experiment. I know. Oh, look at that big old fat slug. So we'll kick him out of the way. Other than that, I'm not sure how I would handle this again. I think it just really depends on what happens this fall. So this is the barn portion of the garden tour, and I will take you up front here momentarily. This is my container garden, north side of the garage, so cool or shade tolerant crops. So little miniature peas, kale, lettuces, I think that's dill. Right there, the tall spindly things. Some mint that overwintered. Beetroot. And in this container that I have started in the little egg things is Chinese cabbage, or Napa cabbage, also known as. So you can see I have a variety of containers. Some of them, the bright fabric ones, are the Cali Kim Smart Pots. 5-gallon size maybe. So there's kale in that one, and then beets in this one. And again, I started these in egg cartons because they make just nice little individual cells. Lettuce, and it looks like a carrot. And then this is more, these get more sun. So I've got corn growing in a recycle bin. I planted some squash. I have some red chard, so that's where the sticks are, some squash. I planted a melon in that Cali Kim Smart Pot, the purple one. I think this is a cucumber, although I honestly don't remember. And there's some spring onions and marigolds. The window behind is the basement window. That's where my office is. And this one has spring onions and nasturtiums. So yeah, this gets a lot of sun. I just prepared this bed on Sunday. That's what it looked like. So this will carry on. This is a really nice sunny spot. So I cleared out all the weeds and put down some cardboard and some compost. And here is the garlic that I mentioned. So pretty wimpy garlic. You're going to need like a whole head or two to actually make it your food have any flavor. Here is a navel orange, a Washington navel orange. We're in the Pacific Northwest. And it's got these darling little oranges. So we'll see. I've been fertilizing and watering as needed. This area gets a lot of sun. So I planted some peppers in the small pots. Here's tomatoes and a lettuce. That one. There's probably a pepper in that little one too. Pepper, tomato. This pot, apparently I forgot what I planted because there's a hodgepodge of green beans, and it looks like there's a tomato. There's some chard, arugula that's going to seed, and eggplant. This one I think is a cucumber with some amaranth. Looks like there's some slug damage. I heard on Charles Dowding's No Dig podcast that rhubarb leaves may prevent slugs, so I may pick some rhubarb leaves. There's a tomato that's already got some flowers on it, and these are the miniature determinate type, and eggplant, tomatoes, chard, and more eggplant, tomato and basil, tomato, carrots, potatoes. I've already harvested one of these bags of potatoes and then replanted some. My lettuce bed that's we have been harvesting from that for quite a while. Quite good. Rosemary, and then oh gosh, what is this? I can't remember. It will come to me. Flower beds. So I'm not so great at flower beds. They just sort of, a lot of poppies and lilies, chives, stuff I don't know what they are. So this is the east facing. Some lilies. There's a dahlia down there that's trying to do something. There's some dahlias in that bed that we just walked by. Poppies, some kind of a sedum. And this is my feral patch of tomatoes. So these just come up when they feel like it, and they typically start growing in July. And so I'm always surprised when I get tomatoes, but I get tomatoes. More red chard and some peas. So these beds don't get watered, so the pots get watered, the strawberry bed gets watered, but that's it. The rest of these are on their own. Sorry about the log truck. So this garden is supposed to screen the propane tank. There's a peony and dahlias. There's a, I think it's a red flowering currant, I think, right there. Lots of dahlias. It's really quite pretty in the summer, and then a tree. That I think flowers in January. I can't remember what it is. Ornamental grass. So I have to think about this as more of a kind of a permanent screen. We may put a fence in front of that, just a decorative fence. And this is the Hugelkultur garden. So this was a mound of debris, like cut wood and junk wood and stuff like that. I just hauled up a lot of the composted horse manure, put some seeds in it. And this zucchini is doing quite well. I don't water it. I have to pick the little berries out of it, like the salmon berries and out of it. This is an Armenian cucumber, some beans. So it's doing quite well. And then corn. So I planted some squash here, so we'll see how that does. And yeah, so that is the garden tour. Thinking about maybe doing another one of these Hugelkulturs, probably right where I'm standing. So we'll see. So this is concludes the garden tour.